Coming up on show 899, the Tesla Model Y gets faster with an acceleration boost. Stick around, I'll tell you more. Plus, on the podcast today, the Polestar Precept will go into production, Xpeng is shipping to Norway, and Lordstown Endurance gets its interior revealed. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening in the world. Welcome to EV News Daily, last one of the week, Friday, 25th of September. My name is Martyn Lee, and it's my job to go through every EV story, so you don't have to. And I whittled them down to 15-20 minutes of the essential news. New patrons to thank this week: John DIETZ. Thank you, John. Thank you so much. Brian SCHAFER has joined up on Patreon. I really appreciate that. Both producers at producer level and a new executive producer, Nicholas Miller. And if the name sounds familiar, I've mentioned him before as a producer, and he's increased his support of the podcast, and a new premium partner. I've been teasing this all week, actually. A new top-level supporter of the podcast. Thank you so much to rsimons.co.uk. Now, Richard and the team there, they are the electric vehicle specialists, and I'm going to tell you more about those over the coming days and weeks. I've known Richard for a while now, and his story is an incredible one, from starting with one single used car to what is now an incredible business selling electric vehicles. And if you would like to have a look at the website over the weekend, rsimons, rsimons.co.uk. I have been window shopping. There is a Model S for 45 grand. That would be very nice if I had 45 grand, of course. Facelifted, free supercharging, all the bells and whistles on it. 90D, lovely. But he's not got just Teslas, he's got tons of electric vehicles that you can check out over the weekend, rsimons.co.uk. And like I say, always great to have a new premium partner of the podcast supporting this show, putting it on the air for you to listen to, hopefully every single day. Headline story today is all about the Tesla Model Y. That just got quicker. Tesla are launching their acceleration boost upgrade like the Model 3 gets. So for $2,000 for a Model Y dual motor, that's the all-wheel drive one, it shaves about half a second off the 0 to 60 times as electric. Well, last year the same became available for the Model 3, and Tesla owners can unlock the performance of their cars through a few clicks in the Tesla app. And of course, an extraction of money from your bank account in return for that. They are bringing the same experience from the Model 3 to the Model Y with acceleration boost. All you have to do is go to the upgrade section of the app, and Tesla claims the upgrade will improve the Model Y dual motors 0 to 60 from 4.8 to 4.3. If you're the kind of person who absolutely needs that extra half a second of 0 to 60 time, you can get the extra performance. And of course, it's a lot cheaper than spending an extra $10,000 on getting the performance version of the Model Y, which will do 0 to 60 in 3.5. You do get a few more toys for that 10 grand though. But do you think anybody will actually do this? I mean, my personal values, my personal situation, there's absolutely no way that somebody would extract £2,000 out of me for a couple of clicks on an app and half a second 0 to 60 quicker. There must be some people there, otherwise they wouldn't bother doing it. It must have been a success with the Model 3. There must be people in the world who are like, yeah, sure, have my money. It doesn't appeal in any way possible to me. But I've seen people online today saying it's a genius move by Tesla at the end of the quarter to get extra revenue in. Shoulder shrug emoji. Polestar are next in the news today. Polestar announced today the Precept concept model. The Precept concept, I did say that correctly, shown earlier this year, will go into production. Vehicle development is underway in the UK. 130 people working on the project. According to InsideEVs, the decision's been made after the company realised that actually people like it, and there would be a market for a great-looking, sporty, pure EV. It's a four-door saloon, 3 years away from hitting the market, aimed at the premium sports car market, which is not exactly crowded, but then there's money in them there hills. Looking at Porsche Taycan buyers, Tesla Model S, Plaid model, Lucid Air Dream Edition. I don't know how expensive this will be, but it won't be far off those cars, I imagine. It's a bit longer than a Model S, about 15 centimetres longer, but four-door, super sporty, saloon, that kind of car. Big car, so it could take a big battery. We look forward to hearing more, but it's 3 years away. Cars arriving now, today, are the Chinese Xpengs. Xpeng has started exporting vehicles to Europe in numbers. They just loaded 100 G3s. They are the crossovers onto a shipping container in the Chinese city of Guangzhou yesterday. The vehicles are currently on their way to Norway. According to Automotive News Europe, they will then be distributed by Norwegian EV dealer Zero Emission Mobility. Starting price of 358,000 kroner, which is about 37,000 US dollars equivalent. The G3 is a compact crossover, has a range of 323 miles on the Chinese way of measuring it. That's about 230 EPA equivalent. Respectable. From a 66.5 kilowatt hour battery with CATL cells. And if anyone in Norway listens to this podcast and is interested in getting hold of one of these, do let me know. I'd love to hear some first impressions. Trust me, there's more cars coming from China soon than 100 cars from Xpeng. You brace yourself. The invasion has barely begun. Lordstown are next in the news. Lordstown Motors are continuing to tease us of the Endurance electric pickup truck. A truck that couldn't look any more like a truck, anything more like a typical Ford F-150 if it tried. Now the Lordstown Endurance has the interior photos, and it does look a little bit different to a typical truck, says Motor Trend. Much like interiors of the Cybertruck and the Rivian, the Endurance is dominated by screens, not buttons. A long frame on the dashboard houses the screens, with 6 physical knobs beneath for the climate's controls. The cabin has an industrial feel with stark metallic accents, and the overall interior aesthetic does match the minimalist design of the outside, but very, very much aimed at a working vehicle buyer, fleets, all those kind of things. Even the guy driving in the press shots they've issued has a yellow hard hat on. The Endurance will be 600 horsepower, 4 in-hub motors, electric in-hub motors, range of 250 miles, towing your £7,500. Can you buy one? No, not yet. As per Fox 28, Lordstown Motors announced they have 40,000 pre-orders of the Endurance, but they're not binding and can be cancelled or delayed with no penalty. It's about $2 billion in potential revenue, but really nothing to lose from those orders to say, we don't want one now. However, good luck to any EV company bringing a vehicle like that to market. Could do well with fleets. I say it's very, very conventional. It is just picture a truck in your head. Yeah, that's what it looks like. Moving on, Amazon now have a device that works in your car, specifically your Tesla, Ring, which is the bit of Amazon which likes to spy on people outside your house and even indoors. Amazon and Ring have announced their first move into the car market, at least with the Ring, because you can get Amazon's A-word devices inside cars, but now Ring is inside the car. Says The Verge, they're talking about Car Connect. It's a black plastic USB connected dongle for your Tesla. I think it's got some onboard storage on this as well. And Ring says it's working with many car companies, but the first is Tesla. So if you have an S3, an X or a Y, and you have Sentry mode, which of course enables all of those cameras around the car, it will work with that. I think it stores... I think it replaces the USB device or hard drive. So it stores the camera footage, but you can also connect to this device inside your car, and you can look at the cameras from your mobile phone device, and you can view the footage and even play it back if you've had an event, a Sentry event. How does it work? Well, TechCrunch has the details. Ring Car Connect consists of an API that car manufacturers can use to provide Ring customers access to mobile alerts for any events around their vehicle, or to watch footage back just on their mobile phone device. It allows access to information that wouldn't be available with an aftermarket setup, like whether the car is locked or unlocked, for instance. The Ring device will tell you. Ring's first automaker partner is Tesla, and users can install the device coming in 2021 for $200, and it's on top of your monthly Ring subscription. So if it wasn't enough for Amazon to know absolutely everything about your life, they now like to know who is in the car and who is around the car, where you're going, who you're going with, at what time, at every minute of the day. Is that a possible worry? No, of course it's not. Amazon just like to know every single detail about your life. Well, Tesla is next. A pilot battery factory was announced earlier this week on Battery Day, and according to Clean Technica, they've done the numbers. It's the 13th largest gigafactory in the world. Tesla Battery Day said that they were going to make 3 terawatt hours of batteries by 2030. Seems inconceivable, because this year, Giga Nevada will make 35 plus gigawatt hours of cells. So you're going to 1000x that? According to Benchmark Mineral Intelligence, who go on Twitter, maybe you've seen them, they're called Benchmark Minerals, they were forecasting for every lithium-ion battery production in the world combined 3 terawatt hours, and Tesla say they're going to do that on their own. According to Clean Technica, they track 187 battery factories. Benchmark Minerals was forecasting 2.7 terawatt hours of annual battery capacity globally. And there's so many massive cell makers. They were predicting 2.7. Tesla say they'll do 3 terawatt hours on their own. If they do hit that, that is somewhat of an embarrassing miss of a prediction of a company that hang their reputation on knowing all about lithium-ion batteries. The company forecasted Tesla would be at 200 gigawatt hours. It is, I know, I find this interesting because I do follow them on Twitter, and they're massive experts in the area. I do find this with experts who have such deep knowledge, as obviously these people at the benchmark place are. It's their job to predict the industry in 10 years' time. And I do find this generally with people who are so deep into a field, like they're just mega brain, like 4 brains all working at once, because they understand every bit of the minutiae of their field, that when someone comes along and changes like the paradigm, their brain isn't elastic enough to go, oh, we didn't think of that. Like, we didn't think that was possible. And we'll see how far Tesla gets to their predictions. I did find a thing, a 2013 on Clean Technica. They had a link through to it. There was a 2013 presentation that Tesla did that said, in 2020, in 7 years' time, in the year 2020, we'll make 500,000 cars and 35 gigawatt hours of batteries. Can you imagine how crazy that sounded 7 years ago? I bet they got laughed out of so many investor boardrooms. This is pre-Gigafactory. This is when they were pitching for money. Well, fast forward 7 years. They said they'd make 500,000 cars. Even with COVID, they might just do that this year. They might be a little short because of a few various... And of course, China is in there as well. But they may do 500,000 cars. It is possible. They said they'd do 35 gigawatt hours of cell production. They're doing it already. Like, I don't know why people who watched Battery Day at Tesla's 10-year plan and doubted it. Because if they've done that in the last 7 years, just think what they can do, what that team, they've done the hard yards now. That team have been through a brutal period at Tesla, and think about what they've learned. Why would anybody doubt this massive, this grand vision that Tesla have? And, you know, you don't have to be a fan of you haven't got to have Elon Musk's tattoo on your backside to be a fan of the company. And I'm a fan of Tesla, the company, of what they've achieved, what they say they're going to do. And of course, we'll see how far they get to it. But even if they get like halfway there, it will be incredible. But I think they got some interesting things up their sleeve. Okay, let's talk about Chinese company Geely next. They've got a luxury brand called Lynk Co. It's a sub-brand, and they've got a new car called the Concept Zero. But it's not a concept because it's going into production. The Zero is a luxury pure electric car based on their platform, this architecture that'll be used as a basis for all of the EVs in their group. They've called it the SEA architecture, Sustainable Experience Architecture. Okay, so all of the Geely cars will be based on SEA, and they'll license it to third parties as well. The Zero goes into production next year. Over-the-air updates, 435 miles on NEDC, so maybe 300, say. 4 seconds, 0 to 60. It's insanely fast. And if you're thinking, oh, yes, another Chinese manufacturer making big claims. No. Lynk Co. Have sold jointly 300,000 cars in the Chinese market since 2018. They're not mucking about. Keep an eye on them. Ford are next. They're not messing about with their EV. I'm a big fan of the Ford Mustang Mach-E. And now confirmed the GT, which was always going to be going to the US market, confirmed for the European market. Confirmed actually for the first time for the European market. 3.7 seconds, 0 to 62, when it's introduced late next year. Ford says, and I quote, "No other vehicle in its class can accelerate faster than the Mustang Mach-E GT," end quote. except a car called the Tesla Model Y, conveniently forgetting the Model Y performance, which does 3.5 seconds 0 to 60. So Mustang Mach-E GT, 3.7 seconds 0 to 62. 0 to 60 is the Tesla 3.5. So I don't know what the extra 2 miles an hour takes to get to, but for Ford to say no other vehicle in its class can accelerate faster than the Mustang Mach-E conveniently forgets a rather high-profile car called the Tesla Model Y, which is frustrating because I think the engineers at Ford have done an incredible job. I followed their progress through COVID. They were putting updates online. There was one engineer that when lockdown happened, they couldn't stop development of the Mustang. They could have stopped it, but they didn't want to, developing the Mach-E, and so they would take the car out on their own and then get home, download all of that data, upload it to the cloud, get on a call, and this engineer, she was saying that they managed to work remotely, just drive around the block because you couldn't go very far from home at the peak of lockdown, drive around the block, get that data, get it to their colleagues, and her and her colleagues would then compare notes and improve the car and the software. Engineers have done a great job. The Ford management and marketing people, I don't think, are always on the money yet. I'm sure many of them are very good at selling ICE cars, and there's probably a few dinosaurs in the company that need a bit of a clear out as well, because I've been saying things recently like they're the only American company supporting the electric, like with the California ICE ban, like supporting that move to electric vehicles. And no, Tesla is an American company success story. Thank you. And so I find that kind of weird. But the engineers, the people on the ground that have made the car, the Mach-E's a great car. They're also going to give people in Europe years access to Ionity charging network, and that charges 150 kilowatts on the Mach-E. So great specs on that as well. I've never driven one. I say I'm a fan of it. I've never even sat in one, but I'm a big fan of the Mustang Mach-E, and hopefully I'll fix that very soon. Right, Minnesota next. They're offering grants to deploy 38 fast charging stations. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency is funding the installation of almost 40 new DC fast chargers in the greater Minnesota area on a EV highway. They're calling it a corridor of 2,500 miles. Each of the chargers are about 30 or 70 miles apart along these corridors. $2.6 million being spent from the Volkswagen You Did a Very Bad Thing settlement fund. I am sure Volkswagen would like to stop being reminded of that settlement fund sooner rather than later. It is hanging over them. Even this week when they released the ID4. Great car. I saw so many comments online going, Dieselgate, you suck! And I'm like, I understand it. I'm not there. Like, I just want them to make great EVs, but I do get that some people are not forgiving and forgetting just yet. Right, two more stories. ChargePoint, the public charging network ChargePoint, one of the world's oldest and largest charging networks, are going public by reverse merging with a corporation in a deal that values the company at $2.4 billion, says Autoblog. The deal raises about $500 million, $500 million for ChargePoint, and they're going to use that money to expand in North America, in Europe as well. ChargePoint operates more than 115,000 charging ports globally, mostly in North America. And they're doing this reverse merger to become an IPO company or a listed company through the IPO through a SPAC, an SPAC, a special purpose acquisition company or corporation. Had to learn about these this year. I hadn't heard about them, because these investment vehicles have been used to get public listings for Fisker, for Lordstown, for Canoe, for Nikola. That went well, didn't it? And these companies, they list, they IPO, they become public companies. You invest in them not knowing what company they'll buy or merge with. And then within 2 years, the rules state that they've got to go find a company to merge with. So this is a way of becoming a public company quicker for certain companies. And so that's what ChargePoint have done. It seems to be this year's hot thing to do. And finally, Rolls-Royce have trademarked the name Silent Shadow. What does it mean? Could it foreshadow, pardon the pun, an electric Rolls-Royce? Well, You would think so. According to Auto Week, Rolls-Royce cars are already expensive, so making them EV doesn't move the needle much when it comes to the overall price. They're already heavy. So you haven't got to worry about the curb weight of a big battery. The hardware is already available to its owner, BMW. Rolls-Royce cars are big, so the batteries can be big and go a very long way, on maybe 500 miles on a single charge if you're cruising. And since most Rolls-Royces will spend their time idling in the traffic of Shanghai and Moscow, you don't need ludicrous mode to do 0 to 60 in 2 seconds, but they're always pretty quick, aren't they? The Rolls-Royce Silent Shadow should definitely become a thing. Oh my goodness, if any car is ripe for being electrified, it's a Rolls-Royce, because it will just chauffeur those millionaires that own them and have somebody driving them for them. You can just waft. You can waft anywhere you want to in total silence. And of course, the instant torque of electric motors is just more pleasant. Now look, being inside a Rolls-Royce is hardly unpleasant at the moment. But yeah, they should absolutely, totally electrify that brand. Well, that's all of your news for this week. For another week, thank you for listening, and thank you for your continued support on Patreon. I am taking a very rare week off now. Zoinks! Holy moly. Who gave me permission to do that, eh? I don't tend to take many holidays, and it'll be the first week off that I've taken this year. But what with things like lockdown and some of the challenges that we've had this year, we're not going anywhere apart from a cabin. Just my wife and I and the little lad are just going to go away for 5 days. You know what? When I've been on holiday before, I've done the podcast. I've just taken myself off for a couple of hours with a microphone and carried on. But you know what? People have said to me, if you need a break, take a break. So we are. So there you go. Show 900 will be the first one back. How did we get there, eh? 900 shows. Big number. And that'll be back a week on Monday. So I will see you on the 5th of October. Thank you to everyone who supports on Patreon. Premium partners, Phil Roberts of Electric Future. Talking to Phil about a very exciting project at the moment. I can say no more. Brad Crosby, Avid Technology, doing amazing things as a UK engineering company. Porsche of the Village in Cincinnati. Audi of Cincinnati East. Volvo Cars of Cincinnati East. Send an XC40 recharge my way. Yeah. NationalCarCharging.com and AlohaCharge.com. If you get a chance to follow the main man there, Jim, on LinkedIn, highly recommend it. Derek Riley, making great videos on the EV Review Ireland YouTube channel. And as you heard, a new premium partner of the podcast. If you're interested in used EVs in the UK, check out Richard at RSymons, RSYMONS.co.uk. Also the partners, David and Lisa Allen, who listen to the podcast together. OEM Audio of New Zealand and evpower.co.nz. Gareth Hamer, eMobility Norway at eMobilityNorway.com. Bob Boothby from the Millbrook Cottages and Elopement Wedding Venue. Darren McCleskey at Denovo Real Estate. Thank you, Darren. Jukka Kukkonen from Shift2Electric.com. And Rajiv Narayan, now a partner of the podcasts, and all of my executive producers. I like to give them a mention once a week. It means a lot for you to support this podcast, so thank you very much. Alan Robson, Alan Shed, Alex Banahini, Alexander Frank, Anders Hove, Andrea Jefferson, Asir Khalid, Ashley Hill, Bjard Fuchstack, Brent Kingsford, Brian Thompson, Bruce Bohannon, Charles Hall, Chris Hopkins, Colin Hennessy and Cams EV, Craig Coles, Craig Rogers, Damian Davis, Darren Fetch, Dave Jewson, David Finch, David Moore, David Partington, David Prescott, Don McAllister at screencastsonline.com, Eru Kyunyi Nyombi and Frederick Rovick, Gene Rubin, Gilberto Rosado, Jeff Lowe, Headley Wright, Ian Griffiths, Ian Sear, Ian Waddy Watkins, Jack Oakley, James Storr, Jim Morris, John C. Sloler, John, who is Beardy McBeardface at Kent EVs, John Manchek, Juan Gonzalez, Ken Morris, Kevin Mason, Carl Mann, Lars Daliger, Lawrence D. Allen, and Lee Brown. Luke Cully, Marcel Ward, Mark Borsett, Smarty Young, Matt Puccioni, Mia Oppelstrup, and Michael Pastroni, Mike Winter, Nathan Gore-Brown, Neil E. Robertson, Sussex EVs, Nicholas Miller, as you heard earlier in the show, Nigel Miles, Ohan Aston, Paul Ridings, Paul Stevenson, Pete Glass, Pete Gorton, Peter and D. Roberts from Oxon EVs, Phil Mouchet, Philip Troutman, Raj Badwell, Rene Kimmick, Renee Schneider, Richard Lupinski, Rob Hermans, Rob from the RS Thinks EV YouTube channel, Rupert Mitchell, Seiki Payne, Stephen Penn, Steve John, Thomas JTS, Todd Oakes, The Plug Seeker and his EV YouTube channel, Tim Gutteridge and William Langford. Have a wonderful week. I'll see you a week on Monday for show 900. Oh, and do remember, there's no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.